All right, so we're live, and I didn't plan on this being too long. I just want to be concise, and this is going to be important for the record. Uh, After having listened to Tyler's theory and the way he explains it, I think I've come to understand your theory a lot better. Because, like you said, they're very similar, but the reason yours is so is the word convoluted. I don't know why that's popping up in my head, and I just want to make sure that's what I mean. Um, So convoluted. Yes, convoluted. All right, that's the word. So complex, hard to understand, is because you are necessarily diving into the complexity. So he's figured out that there are these levels, and that these levels, out of these levels emerges a pattern, and it has to do with this 1/3 ratio. And you're looking within each level, and you're looking like in detail within each level, and also like the relative meaning between the level itself with the other levels, not just the grouping of levels. So I does that make sense to you, or am I being too abstract there?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so then I ask you today is what is the practical application of this? And I think there probably is a practical application, but when it comes down to the very function, like when it would be applicable, it will still we have to respect the law of duality, which is that there's going to have to be inputs and outputs, right? Like or yes or no, binary. There's going to be some kind of binary decision or superposition of a binary. That's quantum computing, right? So ultimately, I don't think there's really like paradoxism seems to me that it's functional. It has to do with practicality, how to function, like the actual decision making or like the contrast. Whereas your theory seems primarily predictive. And somehow, maybe it's like the yin yang, that there's something predictive out of paradoxism, and there's something functional in spiralism. But the point is, I definitely think that ultimately, um, your theory will probably, if we create a paradoxical framework to make decisions, then and that's exactly what it is. We are living paradoxically. That's what I believe. I mean, we necessarily make choices on many levels, abstract and not. You know, just to give you a small example, so sadomasochism. It's very paradoxical. The idea of pain and pleasure, right? You're getting pleasure out of pain. That's so we necessarily behave and function in that manner. So that behavior, you can predict what happens when you behave paradoxically on a larger macro scale. And I think that paradoxism, as much as it's functional, it's about the behavior, it's about the decisions that we make and how we make them. And obviously, these decisions are always made in order to create balance. Like we don't realize, but we're always trying to maintain balance of the system. That's why paradox, because if you just seek pain, at some point there will be no pleasure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm using the sadomasochism thing, but take when someone's being whipped, right? It's like a sexual fantasy. There's pain there, but not too hard, because then it's just pain. There's no pleasure. And so there's like a boundary, there's a bit of a balance there, right? And that has to do with time as well. Like if I just whip you forever, like really fast, at some point it'll be too painful. There has to be some time interval to pass. So there we go. Starting to talk about space and time already. So this is abstract. We're talking about human beings enjoying pleasure and pain paradoxically. So I'm giving you a very concrete example of what I mean by functional. We're talking about how we behave. Now, if we understand what to do and when to do it, and that it's superposition of two things, pain, pleasure, that ultimately on the largest of scales, on the macro scale, you're going to start to see the spiral if you use spiralism. And that's what I'm trying to say. Your theory is it's predictive. It means that it seems to be predictive. It seems to be what happens, or what will you see? What is the next iteration or jump, or what level, based on the very behavior of paradoxical action. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I liked maybe yesterday or 2 days said you about when you are being a human
Mm-hmm.
as a limited self and being a god at the same time. So I think that's also describes what you explain here, right? So that's also you are limited, but in a sense limitless, and yeah, that's I think that's a good thing that can help you to stay on the ground and do actually your potential. That's what I see. Um, because I explain or tell to people you can you can actually do what you would like to do. It's the limit is not you at the moment. The limit will be in the future what your system is capable or your your close proximity. It's not just about you, it's about the what the system allows you to do. So if you have really big goals, then you can achieve some of it, and the system will allow you do how far you can go. And if you how I see that, if you don't do not try to improve, you cannot reach or cannot go further in this sphere. That's how I see at this moment, because in my personal life it's also true. It's you know I I started this path in around 10 years ago directly. Before 10 years, I just tried to understand everything. So I spent 20 years on just understanding and looking at things. And
Mm-hmm.
now is the last 10 years is uh, is showing some feedback for me. So I had prepared for these moments. I and I didn't know at that point. I just started to do something
Mm-hmm.
and work towards somewhere.
Yeah, okay, but see, this is what I'm trying to say, like to keep it more concise.
Mhm.
What you're doing, and I think it boils down to this. I'm just going to share my screen here. I don't know if that works. Presents, share screen. Okay. All right. So
Mhm.
you see, do you see what I'm doing?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So this is the model that I sent you
yeah.
a couple hours ago, right? Now, here's the thing. You said that you have to stay in the present moment, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, it's predictive. Like, here's the thing. If we take this level here, and I can't really see my cursor very well. I don't know if there's another tool that kind of shows maybe the size. I don't know. Yeah, okay. So if right here is multicellular, and then here is organism, and then here are like communities or
Yeah,
cities, right? So when you're talking about these levels, right? Right now, if we are here, okay, we can't exactly predict, like we don't know what the next level will look like, but we can know when. See, because you've
yeah,
aggregated enough information, you've calculated the distance in when it comes to this spiral, that there is a set um, distance or something
yeah.
to calculate that's eternal, then you can predict when the next paradigm shift or the next level will emerge. You just don't know what it's going to look like. And neither does paradoxism. But here's the thing, the spiral itself, when it's being created, it has to be created through the paradox, which is kind of ironic that I placed this infinity loop. Because let's say we are like, let's do it right here, okay? Or actually, I'm just gonna make an X, but for all intents and purposes, like at some point in time we were here, right? And again, because of paradoxism, really, it's just a functional thing. It has to do with how to make a decision. And if you understand that two extremes, they are actually superimposed on each other, you will necessarily find the balance point. And I think there is a balance that emerges whether we understand it or not. But consciousness seems to be moving towards higher degrees of awareness. So if individuals in the system, kind of like if cells become self-aware, then they can create multicellular, the multicellular paradigm, the next level. If
Yes.
multicellular level gets aware enough, it can start to build,
Yeah.
organs, and then organs are self-aware enough they can create the human being, and so on and so forth. So it has to do with awareness. If you can almost measure or predict or create a behavior or do all three, by measuring the relativity between awareness and spirality, or whatever, the information that we have. So for example, the relationship between where our current level of awareness is in humanity in relation to the time between now in the present moment, so that would be here, and the next level. So the relationship between those two, that's the mathematical equation that I believe will come together to tell you exactly when it's going to happen, because like I said, it's proportionate to the awareness that you have. So and again, because really this is just in the past, I'm giving you a past example. The truth is, in the present moment, you're always here.
Yeah.
You're always here. You're creating the spiral at the same time in the present moment. So if you're creating the spiral, you can't know what the next jump is going to look like, right? But you can just predict when it's going to happen. And in order to get there, you have to try to maintain balance as much as possible. And when you maintain, and that's what's happening, consciousness is always moving towards balance. See, like, I'll give you an example. For human history, the entirety of human history, we had this very straight hierarchical system where you have like, a dictator or a king or an emperor, and it's like that. Okay, over time, we have moved towards a more lateral sort of like ecosystem level of self-organization. Think about democracy, right? The people's the control and power, free market economies, or mixed economy. It creates balance, because think about it, in a democracy, you have a bunch of different ideologies and they're all conflicting. And yet, because they're all there, those conflicting ideologies, it creates a balance. So we're never tipping into one extreme or the other. And this is funny because it's occurring in many different fields. You look at Jeremy Rifkin, he's an economist. He talks about that. Like in the past, it was vertical integration. That's how business worked. You had a product or a service. You made it inaccessible to people. They had to enter your shop, pay you. That's how you make your money. So you're pulling money from the system, and then you give the product. So input, vertical integration, output, the product. But now it's a network. It's distributed, meaning like musicians, they put their music out there for free. You don't have to buy a CD or a record anymore. Why? Because if people are aware of your music by putting it out there for free, you're benefiting the system for free. The system pays back to you. How? Musicians now are getting hired to go on gigs. They can play at shows. They can sell merchandise, T-shirts and stuff. Do you see what I mean? So it's like we're becoming more and more aware, right, of something, and that awareness is what's bringing us to the next paradigm shift. And it just seems to me that that the awareness that we're always increasingly getting is balance. How to achieve balance. So we achieve balance through this distributed network rather than vertical integration when it comes to music, business, and so on. I just did a shoot. I was shooting the convention Agile. I don't know if you know about Agile, but it's this huge model that the
System, yeah.
Okay, so you know about it, Scrum and all that stuff.
Yeah, Scrum.
I didn't know about it before, but they contracted me to shoot the convention. It's the Middle Eastern department of Agile, and it's the same thing. Agile, the whole idea is to not have any one leader, but to see if it's possible for a system where everyone leads and everyone follows at the same time, it's like this balance between, and that this is applicable to many types of businesses on multiple levels. So they're teaching this to the world. There's a whole company, a whole called Agile. That's all they do is go around the world teaching people how to apply this model. So the 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 the, the amount of awareness, the increasing amount of awareness is proportionate to the amount of balance that you're going to achieve, and vice versa, by symmetry of identity. The amount of balance that you're achieving is proportionate to how much awareness you have, self-awareness in the system. And that increasing self-awareness leads to the next paradigm, and leads to the next level in the spiral. And that's why we can observe in the past different levels. It's just more awareness. And it's funny because you see this in spirituality. People say you need to be more aware, more aware. So awareness is really the commodity, if you will, or the gas in the engine, or whatever you want to, you know, or the variable, or however you want to describe it. So this spiral, ultimately, like I said, I think for it to be created, it's kind of like, I saw a meme yesterday on Facebook. I think it's from Rumi, a famous Iranian poet from ancient Persia, and he says, walking on the path is what the path reveals itself as you walk on it, basically. And I think the spiral creates itself as you make decisions, or as you're walking on it, like you said, staying in the present moment. And in the present moment, this is what my model says about how to make decisions. It's you have three it's funny because we're talking about 1/3 ratio. Well, there is a ratio of thirds, a superposition between 3 and 1 in my model. And the superposition ultimately is, there's 3 ethical systems. And maybe I should go to my website for that. If I go to pillar 2, is it, I believe? No, pillar 3. There we go. Okay. So here are the ethical systems. I have 1 ethical system, right? 2 ethical systems, and 3 ethical systems. What is an ethical system? For all intents and purposes, is a model, or a structure, a framework that allows you to make a decision. That's where morality emerges, right? So how do you make a decision, and in what context? That's the framework. So there's only 3. There are only 3 models, and you can't just use one. So I'll give you the 3. You have objective morality, right? The absolute authority that comes from infinity. That's the absolute truth, right? That's what we've called God's truth. And then you have moral relativity. So that has to do with space and time and proximity. If you're over there doing your thing, I think it's immoral for me, but you can do it. It's moral for you, so you can do it. But then that breaks down as well. If you come to my country and then you're necessarily impacting my morality, right? Then that breaks down. Like, that system doesn't work anymore. The relativity breaks down. You either have to conform to my morality, or I have to conform to yours. So this is, think about it in terms of decision making, not necessarily just good and bad. And then you have duality. So duality is really how things function. It's very tied into relativity and objectivity, but ultimately it's what we call in philosophy evolutionary humanism. So that's this one here, which basically means, it's natural selection, right? What is good is what is optimized for the environment, right? If you're a black polar bear in the north and it's snowy, you're going to die off. It's bad, or that's a no, or a 0, right? A 1 or a good, right, is the polar bear who has the genetic anomaly to have his fur become white. That works in function with the environment because it's snowy, and then the prey can't see the bear. Therefore, the bear can eat the prey and have more success with hunting. Therefore, it moves on. So this is binary. This is the binary system. That's the dual, and that's amorality. That's what the Nazis subscribe to. It's called evolutionary humanism, right? Hey, because we are strong, well, the weak naturally have to die off. That's just nature. Okay, so if you use any one of those 3 systems, you're actually causing disbalance. You're unbalancing the system. You necessarily have to use all 3 systems in the present moment. You can't say, I'm always going to use moral relativity, because, like I said, it breaks down at some point. What if you guys are too close? Or I'm always going to use moral objectivity. Yeah, well, that's great, your God's truth, but that person says my God's truth. So it's not so objective anymore, and it breaks down. And duality, same thing. I mean, like if you think that it's just strength, well, what does strength mean if you're always killing off the weak? Well, okay, let's say you've killed off the weak. This is what you've defined weak is. You've killed it off. Now what? Weak becomes the relative difference between the strongest in that strong category and the weakest in that strong category. So it's so self-destructive. It'll always continue killing and killing and killing. So it's completely self-destructive. It breaks down as well. So you necessarily need weak people or and everything in between to maintain balance in the system. Therefore, virtue ethics, right? That's why Stoicism is so popular, I believe, in today's world, is this balance. It represents the wisdom to know what decision to make in the present moment with the information you have at hand. So maybe today I make this decision, and tomorrow, or like 5 months from now, I'm in the exact same context, but the information has changed, the environment has changed, and I have the wisdom to make a different decision in the same context. And that's the awareness that we're increasingly having. And that's what I'm trying to say is, if we go back to this, if this is you in the present moment, and you're using, the perfect balance of the ethics by creating a superposition, and a superposition is what? It's seeing two sides of an argument. I'll give you the parable from the Bible. There's a story where, what is it? King, I forget his name now, but it was a king, and two women came up. One woman come up says, "This woman stole my child. It's my child, and she stole him." And the other woman says, "No, that's not true. She's the one who stole my child, and it's actually my child, and she tried to steal my child." So I think it was King Solomon. King Solomon, in his wisdom, he says, "Give me the child here. I'll tell you what we're going to do." Because it's like who do you choose? You have these two extremes. He says, "I'm going to divide the child in half. Bring me a sword, and we'll give one half to you and one half to you." And one of the women said, "No, no, no, no." The woman who didn't have the child, she said, "No, no, please let her keep it.
Yeah.
I'd rather the child survive." And then King Solomon said, "Give her the child." So in his wisdom, he created a superposition. He said, "We'll use both. We'll use both women. Both women can have." You see, it's always a superposition between two extremes that will allow you to see what decision has to be made in real time. He couldn't have said, "God, if I'm going to use objective morality and God has told me that the decision should always be the person who complains." So if the person the person who is defending. So the woman comes, he's complaining that this woman stole her child, and the woman who actually did steal the child, she's right, is the defendant, right? She's like, "No, that's not true. She's falsely accusing me." If King Solomon had subscribed to only one ethical system, God's truth, right, that you should always side with the defendant in an accusatory state, then he would have done. It wouldn't have been right. He would have caused a lot of suffering for the child who'd grow up without his mother, and for the mother who grew up without her child, and of course for the mother who didn't actually value the kid enough to let the kid be with his own mother. So that causes a lot of problems in life, right? And that causes an unbalancing of the system in like a sort of wave-like way. I mean, it creates waves. It causes problems upon problems in the future. So this is why, like you said, you have to stay in the present moment. You have to function paradoxically, which is this idea of superposition in real time. And once you do that, you can always look at the increasing awareness. What is the awareness? You can measure at this point. You can measure if society, how much of society has that knowledge of living paradoxically or using virtue ethics, right? And that will predict to you, and not only will it predict, it will create. Perhaps the speed of the spiral can be moderated that way. If we push towards awareness, if the system becomes self-aware, it's exponential, right? You and I are aware of this now. We're going to go and talk to our friends, and then these friends talk to theirs. So the spiral can get much faster. That's what I believe. It probably does get faster in a way, right? The speed of it. So we'll get to that next level. Who knows? What is it? Maybe faster. So even the measurement, the predictive model that you have will shift constantly, exponentially. You'll always have to be making a prediction in real time as well. So I'm going to go back to Da. So there it is. That's do you see what I'm talking about? That it's
Yeah, yeah, good. It was interesting to listen to you, and it was a
it's
great summary.
it's it's practical as fuck, and it shows you how like the interplay between your theory and my theory they fit. And when I say your theory, I mean, like I say, all of our theories are coming together. Tyler Goldstein was right. Goldstein, I don't know how he pronounces
Yeah,
it. I think
yeah.
probably Goldstein. That's the German.
Goldstein,
Goldstein. So I think like they're necessarily coming together, and your model is predictive, and my model is sort of like functional. That's what I was saying. Because
yeah,
yours will predict if you do this calculation between the awareness of the level of paradoxism in the system versus the next, or in relation to the distance between levels, right? You're going to make the prediction in real time.
yeah. I'm not sure. You probably didn't see. I made this another video on consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and let me just move this. I will just show you that one for a moment. Uh, yeah. So can I present that right? Share screen.
I don't know if you can share your screen. Can I allow you to share your screen? Is that possible?
Do you see or do you? You don't see yet. Maybe you need
Mm,
to allow me.
I don't think I don't. I'm looking. I don't see any. Oh wait, I saw settings, virtual background, general audio, shift up. No, I don't see any options to maybe guess. Let's see, guess, play sound. Guest must authenticate. Band. No, there's no option to allow you to. Unfortunately, I don't think. Totally on mute.
All right. Well, anyway,
Yeah,
this is
you can.
just a little bit. I will just send you a picture.
Yeah,
So
send me on Discord and then I'll open it on my side.
yeah. So this is the picture. What is
Oh,
important?
wait a second. Yes, I can. Right here.
Did you find? All right.
Oh, wow, that's trippy. I don't know because it says here that I can show you like your. There it is. That's the thing. You got it.
All right. Do you see now?
Yep.
Yeah. So here, you can think about this top level
Mm-hmm.
as the awareness get to the final stage. So here is the unicellulars, here is the multicellulars, here is the city state.
Mm-hmm.
So this is also, you can think about a spiral,
Mm-hmm.
but I just break off because practical purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So in the unicellular level, the atomic, they like have a small level of cooperation, and here has the final level of cooperation. They are starting to form the 3D object from the atomic level, and at that time, the awareness at the last part, they start to be the highest or consciousness or awareness level, and then can happen the next jump here. So that allows you to get to the cooperation state and get to multicellular. And what we
I,
are doing right now is the city level. The multicellulars goes to the city or and also the same. And so this is also about that, you know,
that's
that
that's good. just I want to add that it's very good what you said. The cooperation state. That's at the very place in the spiral where it begins to go up again into the next one. So the cooperation state. I like that. Just want to say that.
Yeah. All right. So this is really talks. Hello, hello. My wife is just came. So that's what I wanted to show you. That's when you describe the first step. This exactly what I'm just doing. So
Yeah. This is so. I don't know. Do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? That the interplay between your theory and mine are two models.
yeah, I have some disagreement, but it's
Mm-hmm.
you know we need to talk more deeply and more bit until we can understand what is this about. But but this you are felporszívózok. But this is so all right. So what we are doing it's not relevant for today. What we are doing could be relevant in the 10 years time frame. So
Mm-hmm.
I still see these steps is the first steps for some future development. So and also I would like to highlight it for you. Be patient and and sometimes you even can step out from what you are doing. What I did for GCT as well. Sometimes I even forget my theory for 3 or 4 months and came back with a fresh eye and some new perspectives. And actually, that helped me to complete the whole story.
Yes,
And
I've been doing that a little bit for the last 3 or 4 years, on and off. But I'm curious, where do you disagree? Do you just disagree by when you said that it's not relevant right now? It's relevant maybe in the future. Does that mean you're agreeing, but not you're not necessarily disagreeing with the idea, but you're saying that it's not relevant at the moment? Is that
no,
right?
the relevancy is about, I mean, about the global relevancy.
Yeah.
So
No, but I
it's
mean, like, so the idea that paradoxism is a model that is the that's describing the behavior or the decision making, and that if we use it to become more aware, because that is what's already happening. There's already balances already always trying to occur naturally, but if each cell in the multicellular system becomes aware of itself in relationship to multicellular level, then I think it's what creates the final cooperation state, the final thing in the cooperation. So that's what I'm trying to say. Do you agree that paradoxism is more the functional aspect that is actually creating the spiral, and that the spiral that you're describing is how we is the predictive model? Do you agree or disagree, and why?
yeah. So here is the thing. I think I how I see at the moment, GCT
Mm-hmm.
or spiralism is sufficient enough to if if I would share my knowledge to everyone on earth right now and they understand that, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
then most of the people would have realized we are in a same system, or you can say a same body. In that case, everyone would come together and start to form the final system we can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
This is not realistic, but this is way more what Roy can think about, because he can think about everyone is get enlightenment. But
Mm-hmm.
that is uh, that is doing nothing really. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's maybe just the words. maybe he that is the same, but I can explain what is it. It would be if everyone understands we are in the same system or same body, then we come together and move towards where it needs to be. And
Yes, that's the question then. It becomes, what do you mean by forward, and how do you get to that forward? That's where I say paradoxism comes in.
yeah,
Let's say everyone is aware of your theory, right? That things are a spiral and that we're all part of one body. Now
yeah.
what? What does each individual person do? What's the actual practical application? Hello.
Hello! Most itt mit csináltál? Komolyan.
Elkaptam egy
Hát azt
pillanat.
látom.
Jó, hát
Nem egy
videóztam egy
pillanatra.
kicsit.
You understand what I mean? Like, what then? What's the practical application? What is the final act or non-act or whatever that each individual cell does or person?
Yeah. In this case, the practicality is all right. Okay, let's go a little bit deeper and a little bit more abstract. So most nem tudom. So imagine, all right, we are on Earth. We are forming the system together, and the first situation when the humanity spreads, let's say we are moved to Mars. What would be the totality or the global system do? We as the humans would start together as a whole to move to Mars if that's the need. For example, we see 100 years ago from now will come and hit Earth. What would need to be done? We have to work together and move to Mars because we might survive there. And the whole human population would work on this goal, and practicality comes from that. So everyone will learn and work
I
towards
understand.
that goal.
So to steelman you and to reiterate what you're saying that the practical aspect, how people can decide to move once they become aware, right? The next level of cooperation state, the awareness becomes to continue, right? And so whatever we need to do to continue is what is self-preservation and to grow and expand. Now here's what I would say you and Tyler disagree then, because in his system, I asked him last night, he says that in fact it's also what Ray Kurzweil says, that he believes that everything will become computational, even matter, even like every rock or piece of matter in the universe will become computational fundamentally. And what is that really? At base, if you take it to that level, like what you're doing right now is taking it just to the first level. You're spreading the human species or consciousness is spreading from one small rock to another in space. But if you take that to its logical conclusion, everything will become computational, meaning like humans, we use matter and with matter we turn it into a computer, right? That allows us to increase our awareness, and our consciousness, which is what computers are, right? And the internet and all that. So ultimately, if you take it to its ultimate conclusion, if everything is computational in the universe, that's the question. Does that level up into the next paradigm shift or the next level of this spiral? And Tyler would say, no, it's arbitrary. And also it doesn't actually fit into the model because that would take billions and billions of years for every piece of matter to be computational. So what he says is it's on the quantum level. He says, once we build a quantum computer, he says that, or something does, I don't know, we didn't get deep into this, but he says that ultimately the universe is a singular state. Existence is singular. So it doesn't matter if inside the singular state there's like computational matter, or that the whole thing is computational. It doesn't really matter. Itself, it is itself. It respects the quantum law of superposition, right, or superposition in general, which is what paradoxism talks about as well. It's all a superposition. Therefore, he thinks that it would be through quantum computing, and you don't need all of the pieces of matter in the universe to be computational. All you need is to transcend. Consciousness will transcend itself through quantum computing. And so if humans start to behave or work with quantum computing, if we create brain to computer interfaces and that kind of thing, and there's a quantum computer that's running the system, maybe we generate a new simulated reality, and there you go. You've just created another level. So now at that point, does the whole universe go away? Right? That's where Roy would come in. Or do you know that? But that's the thing. I don't think it really matters. But the point is, I would say that I would maybe side more with Tyler on this, because again, just because he did go to the logical conclusion, he said, well, it doesn't matter how much humans. It's kind of like this: how many multicellular organisms exist within humans? I mean, they have spread, right? They've created many human beings, all these organisms, and yet nothing. So, and yet we still exist in the universe. So I don't know. This is where it becomes really confusing. I have to do more thinking about it. So maybe you are right. Maybe I shouldn't think too much that one side is right or the other is wrong. But ultimately, you're right. I can see what you mean about the decision making will all be whatever decision leads to this next to like spreading this next self-preservation. But again, I think it's a paradoxical loop, because how do you preserve? How do you spread? Right? Like you need a balance. You need a system of balance. So for example, if we all have to work together, we necessarily need to see different perspectives. What you and I are doing, right? We're always willing to be open-minded and to see both sides of an aspect, and then we try to find the common ground in the middle. That's the triune system, and therefore, that's what I'm saying. Paradoxism is the functional aspect of it, and that's how we achieve. So if you and I work together by using paradoxism, by seeing the two extremes, your side and my side, and seeing how they fit together, if we keep doing that, and all of humanity is aware that that's what we have to keep doing, we will self-preserve and move forward and spread into the universe, or we will create a quantum computer. So maybe it's not about your side or Tyler's side. Maybe it's both sides, or it doesn't really matter which one. And that paradoxism is the functional aspect. So do you see what I mean?
Yeah, but James, there is still lots more in my theory. You still don't understand the whole logical framework, and I'm there is a little bit of disagreement with Tyler as well. But I work with the current knowledge what we have, and a little bit transcend that one in some level. So just continue a little bit on the Earth Mars example. So what I'm telling, that let's say the Earth Mars expansion, that's the first step. It might happen without anything just to come. So people probably move to Mars or the moon, and they start to get communities. So that would be the next body for humanity on moon, on Mars. So, and that's, so we currently have one. Then would be 2 or 3, depends what you see. And this expansion will exponentially goes in the whole galaxy, and that's where I say about the Grabby aliens model. The Grabby aliens model predicts there if we are early in the universe, there should be in a soon manner should be something is really expanding. So I in this case I assume we could expand at least for our um, galaxy, and then for from GCT, this is not the it's not just about the next step. I predict this is the next step, first level, and it will continue. The human three-dimensional entity will form the next consciousness and will form the next three-dimensional. And this is goes, so right now we are in the present, and in the future we will get in this expansion, and that happened, I that's my claim, that happened in the future, or in the past, sorry. So that's why we have the atomic realm, the quarkic realm, and that's the important part. I don't know how that can be, but my system predicts there is infinite regression in the past as well. It seems
Yeah,
like impossible, but
it's
that's
all happening at once. But this is what I mean. So you seem to always fall back into describing again and predicting what the system is, but it still doesn't answer my question of in the present moment, how do we choose, like how do we behave? What is the functional mechanism that allows us to behave in a way that allows this spiral to continue?
yeah, the basic answer for that, we cooperate as broadly as we can. So
Yes,
we
yeah, that's
cooperate
what I mean.
8 billion people together, and
That's
and
that's
that's
what I mean. Like, in order for us to cooperate, as you know, what has to happen? When you say broadly, it means you have to include more people who have conflicting ideologies, right? Or paradoxical. It creates a paradox. If you and I are on two sides of an argument, it's which truth is true, right? If you say God is A and I say God is B, and the only way to move forward is to realize God is C, it's the combination of A and B, then you have through the dualistic functioning, you achieve that synthesis, the triune, the third part, and that's why you transcend. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, you can. I'm just trying to say that ultimately, you're describing the spiral and where it's going to go, and how the goal is set. With the goal is always expanding or cooperation or whatever. But again, when you that's describing it from the macro level. When you go to the micro level, when you say, okay, right now we're dealing with just human beings, because human beings is the present moment in this model, right? And in these human beings, how do they behave? How do you get them to behave to cooperate? That's the question I'm asking you. And I've given you my understanding, which I think paradoxism is exact. It's not just what they have to do; it's already what's happening. We're just becoming more aware of it.
yeah, it's so as I
So I don't
described.
see where the disagreement. I don't see where the disagreement is there. So do you agree with that? And if you don't, what is your solution?
Yeah, I don't know, I disagree with that one, and you, I'm just I think we just
Because if you do, no, like I'm completely cool if you disagree. I just want to know if you disagree, then why, right? Like, what's the answer? What have you come up with, like, answer there in the present moment? Like, have you worked on the X on the present moment, like how the spiral actually creates itself? Like, what decisions have to be made in real time by real individuals? Right? Have you thought about this?
yeah, it's as I described. Actually, everyone would need to understand if this system is true. And if they understand this,
Mm-hmm.
this is the natural consequence. They have to start to cooperate, and
Mm-hmm.
it's even what you say.
Mm-hmm.
It always will be different opinions, because we are not, the system is not that strict. Right now, the Western hemisphere, the Western culture, is still plural, and we still moving some direction together. So this is how I imagine. It's you don't need to, there is no dictatorship. There is no need for dictatorship. This whole system with the knowledge they have, they work, they move together in one direction, and in that sphere, there is two sides of the coin can exist still. It's in so yeah okay.
Yeah. So I can see what you mean. I think I'm starting to understand it. Like the pure knowledge of, it's kind of like saying everyone wants pizza. And once they know where the pizza place is, we will naturally gravitate towards the pizza place. So we will behave in whatever way is required to achieve getting the pizza or being at the pizza place. So, but again, what I'm trying to say is now there's the decision of, well, do we take the car to get to the pizza place? Or do we walk down this street first or this street? There's decisions to be made between here and there. And how are those decisions made? I mean, it's clear cooperation, it has to do with a desire. And you can even have the output, desire for what, right? To achieve this level or to go to this place. But again, the functional aspect is, I think, what you're leaving out, like how. It's the how are you going to get there? We know that we need to get there, that we want to get there, and that we need to cooperate to get there. But cooperation itself means we have to make decisions, right? And to make decisions, we have to figure out how. How can we make decisions, and how can we dictate which decisions are the right ones? And ultimately, it takes conflicting systems, conflicting ideologies and people to realize that the actual decision that has to be made is usually a compromise. It's something in between. It's the third aspect. So that's why I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to press my philosophy into yours and to try to say that they like to force it onto you. But I'm just saying, I'm just trying to make it apparent to you, like, why I see it fitting and why I see it being like necessary. And so that's my next level argument, that even if you say that cooperation, like, because you seem to just say that, well, it'll naturally emerge that we will make the decisions that are required to cooperate to get to that place. What I'm trying to say was, well, that's leaving out some information. That's not actually describing something, and that's the description I believe that I've come to.
Yeah, I'm still not sure I understand you everything. So that's, but
Okay, maybe I'll try again. Okay, so to steelman you,
I think do not try again. I
yeah,
should understand at this moment. So
yeah,
we talked about
yeah. If you think it's yeah,
maybe
if you
we
think
need a
it's
little bit
not,
more time.
yeah, if there's no value there, then yeah, that's true. I think I've explained it clearly enough that
Yeah.
you're right. There wouldn't be value in just repeating myself. I don't think I can make it more clear. But I'll see if I can draw something more visual
Yeah,
and
that's good.
write
Yeah.
it down and then send it to you. Yeah. And maybe if someone watches this, this would be great. I'm just saying this out loud. I'm going to post this with your permission.
If you wish,
And,
yeah, that's
all right,
fine.
cool.
That's
It would be great if someone got this far to let us know what you think,
yeah.
and just try to reconcile the confusion there.
Yeah, we are open as well.
Sounds good. But it seems we've made some progress, though. I mean, I've understood your theory a lot more since the last time that we really discussed it in detail.
That's great. And I also like this human god example you use.
Yeah.
You yesterday, or the paradoxism, I also look into a little bit more.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. It was really great as well.
All good. Well, yeah, that's what I realized. Like, because in my model, I talk about space and time a lot, and I talk about matter and energy in the sense that the decisions that it has to make within space and time. But I realize that your theory, Tyler's theory, and these the 1/3 type theories are really describing like what happens with space with the interaction between matter energy and space and time, like over time, and what does that shape look like, and the fluidity, and you're starting to discover the patterns a lot more. So it's almost like I'm just describing the framework and the function, and you guys are describing like what that looks like in its complexity. So I don't know if that's too abstract, but anyway. Very good talk, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Let's do this again.
Great. All right.
I'll see you in the Discord.
Yeah. Bye.
Ciao.